this idea. The intensity of the darkness magnifies the brightness of the light. You know, when my wife and I went to Zimbabwe, we went on a little holiday trip with Mark and Pat Roser missionaries. We had done our teaching and our preaching. We had a couple days, and so they took us way out into the bush to a beautiful mountain area, and in the middle of a third world nation, out in the bush. There's not much civilization out there. There's not much electricity out there. And we stood out in that area, that bush up in those mountains, and we looked up, and of course there was no what we call light pollution. No light pollution. There's no cities, there's no towns, there's nothing. It's dark. And the sky was crystal clear. We looked up, and you could just see those stars shining bright. More stars I saw in Zimbabwe, Africa, on that area than I've ever seen in my life, because the intensity of the darkness revealed the brightness of the light. Now think about that spiritually. A lot of times we go through dark times, and it's those dark times that it reveals the light of truth, or the light of moral purity, or the light of Jesus Christ into the situation. Now, Jesus is the light of the world, and it tells us in verse 5 that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it, or the darkness did not overcome it, or the darkness did not overtake it, or overpower it, or seize it, or possess it. And so the Bible here is telling us in chapter 1, verse 5, that the light overcomes all darkness. That it doesn't matter how dark it might be, that the light of Jesus Christ can penetrate, seize, overcome, overwhelm all the forces of darkness. Years ago, my dad, he was in the military, and he was in there for 27 years, and he retired, and he moved back to Dayton, Ohio, because that was his birthplace. So he moved back to Dayton, Ohio to begin his civilian career, and he started at a ground floor in a company that later became the Environmental Protection Agency. But back then, it wasn't even a federal program yet, so he started on the ground floor, and he didn't make much money, and I still remember he started doing a little bit better financially, and there are two of his children still at home, me and my sister. The other three had gone off to college, and no wonder he didn't have any money paying for all that college. But anyway, they decided, we're going to take you on vacation. And we were so excited, our very first vacation. So we're living in Dayton, Ohio, and he decided to take us to Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. How many have been to Mammoth Cave in Kentucky? Look at that. Now, I loved Mammoth Cave. And I understand why they gave it the name Mammoth, because it is mammoth. It's huge. This cave. I found it fascinating. I still remember this. My mom and dad and my sister and I, we were on the tour, and the guy's taking us down in the deep recesses, the bowels of Mammoth Cave, and get way down there. And the guide gathered the tour group all around him. He says, now I'm going to demonstrate to you darkness. And he said, in a count of three, they're going to shut out all the lights. And 1, 2, 3, and they shut out all the lights that were wired for that cave. And man, it was pitch black. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. I mean, there's no penetration of light anywhere down in that deep, dark cave. I mean, it was dark. And he said, now watch this. And he had a lighter with him, and he flicked that light on. And that little tiny flame overpowered all the darkness that was in that cave. And that's what the Bible here is saying in John's Gospel, chapter 1, verse 5. The light shines in the darkness. A single candle can overcome all the darkness in a room. The light of the gospel can shine into any heart, any home, any circumstance, any nation, and overcome the darkness. Sometimes we think, well, that person, they're just so dark. They're just so gone. There is just no hope for them. And I don't care how dark that person might be, the light of the gospel can overpower that darkness. I don't care how dark the situation or the circumstance you might find yourself in. Man, you don't understand, man. It's dark. My marriage is falling apart. I'm losing my home. My children are rebellious. Pastor, there is no light. It is just so dark. And the Bible here says that the light can overpower the darkness. There's times when you might be walking through a valley of the shadow of death, and you're walking through it, and I want you to know that there is the light of Jesus Christ that can come into any heart, any situation, any circumstance, any trial, any home, any family, and light it up and bring you hope and bring you peace and bring you through your present situation. Somebody say amen to that.